Hello everyone, thanks for stopping in. In case you're new to the channel, I'm Scuba Steve and this is Scuba Steve's Musical Woodworking. Hey Dan, thanks for stopping by. I got not too much on the schedule for tonight. Just kind of cleaning up a few projects here and there. Trying to flatten the surface on this cutting board that I made a while back. With this jig that I made for my router. So, on that note, I think I'll begin. I made this off of a design I've seen from somebody else, and it's worked quite well. Probably not the safest, because it's not fully clamped into position, but it's worked for me, for myself. This one's, the rails on this are just made out of wood, unlike steel that most are made out of, which are going to be way more accurate. But for what I end up, once I get this planed down or milled down, I end up sanding it anyway, so it flattens it out in the end. I'm just trying to knock down some of these high points. It's just a Cobalt, actually. I bought this from. I bought this guy from. What is it? Lowe's. Only because I wanted the router table that it came with, and I think it was like $120. And or it was either or. Maybe I wanted the router and the router table came with it. That would make more sense. But for what I use it for, it works great. I mean, I'm not doing a whole lot with it. I wanted one with the bigger chuck inside, or so I could hold the bigger diameter router bit. I think I ended up spending more on router bits, of course, than the router itself. I love my little palm router though the most. This little Makita, I don't know. It feels good in the hands. I don't know. Something about these palm routers are just so sweet. Oh yeah, and it's a steel bit on there too. I went to a estate sale, snooping around for tools, and I found this old Craftsman. What do you call it? Bit set, router bit set. That obviously was ancient, but it had a lot of good bits in there. A lot of them that I threw away because I don't think they were completely intact. Because they had a couple options where you could unscrew pieces and screw them together to make, I don't know, different profiles. But I didn't really trust some of those too much. So, but yeah. Those estate sales and garage sales, I mean, you can get a lot of good tools from them. Especially if you're starting off. So I made this board probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago maybe. It's just been sitting around the shop when I first started kind of getting into woodworking. And all the pieces they're individually glued together. And they were raised up and it wasn't flat. But you can kind of see the symmetrical design and 3D design of it. And it is flat as you look at it. But I just didn't have the heart to throw it away because it's not, fully square either. And I don't know, I finally decided to do something with this instead of throw it out. So we're going to fill in some big cracks that I've got in here in the seams. And shove some sawdust in there and some glue and see how she goes. Do some sanding. There's a high spot that I missed. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like button. Share to anybody you know. Subscribe. We'll keep the content flowing. Normally, as I know now, if I got too big of cracks, then, a person wants to scrap it. But stuff like this, just going to fill it in with some sawdust and sand it and see what happens. I don't think eating glue ever hurt anybody on their cutting board. Maybe. Don't quote me on that one. Hope everybody had a great day today or is having a great day. Mine's been going pretty well. And everybody's stopping in. Here's what we're making. I'm just filling in some cracks in here. Hit that like button, please, everyone. Let's fill in some cracks and do some sanding. Yeah, you can see, I don't know if you can see these lines, these perforations from when I took this down with the router. It will eventually go away. It's just more precision with a better setup than I have for planing down stuff. Will work better. So I'm going to have to go over this other side again and level it out because I gouged it right here. But all right, we'll try this once. Or not. Where did that go? Maybe it's not on there anymore. Hello. Hello, Vance. Here's a board I'm working on. It's a little cutting board. Make the wife so happy because I think I broke the other one that I was making her. And I'm also using up some of these old pieces of sandpaper that I had that are just kind of laying here saying I've been used, but I got some more life left in me. At least that's what I'm saying, that the reason why I saved them. Totally hard to let them go, especially when you look at them and you're like, maybe this isn't totally garbage, but it may not be what I need it for right now. I'll just set this aside and maybe we'll use it again later. Yeah, like this one. This one's lost all its hook and loop, or my sander is, or I ripped off my pad. I hope that's not what just happened. Oh, I know. I got a whole little tackle box filled with just random that I just keep around for some reason. I guess today is the day that I'm gonna hopefully use them up. I love about these end grain cutting boards is just they end up being so beautiful. What I don't love about the end grain cutting board is that sanding down end grain of maple and cherry and walnut takes forever. Normally, if I'm making boards like this, I'm going to make them at least a good inch thick. Because like with this one, I'm already probably 3/4 of an inch right now. And it won't take anything for this thing to heat up because it's such dense wood. And then it'll just cup on me. I'm staying pretty flat right now. But that's also another reason why I'm trying to kind of pause a little bit for a moment and let it cool a little bit. case you're new to the channel, please hit that like button. All the likes are appreciated. Trying to work our way up to monetization, but not in any hurry either. All right, I think we got most of the glue off there. Visually, I really like this design. It totally looks, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It totally looks three-dimensional, and this is actually made out of one triangular piece. You can kind of see it better. Just one triangular section like this at a 45-degree angle. And then I glued it up to a square. And then ripped it down on the, or sliced it up and then glued it all up individually, which I found is way more work than needed to be. But I also don't have a bandsaw, so once you have this big massive piece, in order to cut it up, I had to use my circular saw, which was a chore. Definitely was a chore. So I'm going to take down this opposite side now a little bit more because of this nice mark that I put in here yesterday. It's going to be thinner than I want it to be, but I'm going to clean it up anyway. Hopefully I don't warp it. And hopefully I don't have to take too much off. I'm still thicker than my finished product is planned to be. I'm going to have to bring it down just a little more. Yeah, this Cobalt router was cheap and it's very effective compared to the Palm router. I love my Palm router dearly. But when you get a bigger chuck bit, you can't fit that in your Palm router. And the Palm router just can't handle it. So for the dollar amount I paid for this is 120, I think, with the router table, but the router table, the legs are kind of weak on it and they're made of plastic and they kind of flex a little bit. If I took the legs off and mounted it to a stand, it'd be way more effective. But I rarely use a router table anyways, so I don't have the room for one either. And if you don't have a planer, this is a heck of a lot cheaper way to plane down boards as well. I wouldn't suggest full boards with this, but for little pieces like this, works pretty well. Thanks for stopping in, Vance. Appreciate your support. And now that we've removed all this material, we can keep our sawdust collection getting bigger. And you can see the difference between the side that's sanded and then this is the side that just got planed down. And now we are getting super thin, so hopefully we don't heat it up too much and warp the board. Like I said, this is an old piece, so I am going to try to fill in a couple of these spots that are cracked or that the glue joint wasn't very good. Not really counting on it filling in the best, but we'll see how it goes. Plus, I don't think I have the finest sawdust either right now. And we're getting somewhere here. Oh man, my neighbor just started cooking something. And it smells good on the grill. Alright, now that we've got a couple sides flat, let's shape this thing a little bit here. Hopefully I don't hit the camera when I take this sander down. I love the sander, but I wish that it was firing sawdust out in the opposite direction. Well, wrong. And to anybody who's new out there, please hit that like button if you like what you see. We'll keep getting some more content coming out for you. Here's what we're working on right now. I took the sides down and smoothed them out. So now we have nice clean sides. I'm going to do a little light sanding on this top on both of these sides, and then we'll hit some oil on here. I don't know if anybody has ever seen these, but these buffer pads, this is considered 400 grit sandpaper, and it's reusable. Diablo makes this, and it works quite well. For what I'm doing right now, though, I do need to take off a little bit more material because I've got a little bit of glue hanging out here. And I think the more I look at this board, I think we're going to put some rounded edges on here. Well, we'll see how much juice I got. There's one for you, Kev. How's that for you? Ooh, ah. Stare at this while I'm cutting some vegetables up or some squash. Thankfully that we had enough battery there. Hey, Benito. So what I did is I just knocked this edge down just a little bit. And I'm probably going to do a little bit of hand sanding on these corners, just so they're not so sharp. Not a lot. Just enough to round them off. So that a person doesn't think that they stab themselves while using the cutting board. Have you ever been stabbed by a cutting board? Since it was cutting? I know, that was kind of a bad one. All right. Let's put some oil on this sucker. Get out my little bench dogs. They're just a little puck. Has a little foam on each side for raising your workpiece off the surface of your tool bench, as well as it grips as well. So whatever you're doing, doesn't slide around. Turn that fan down a little bit here too. All right. All right, so who's ready? You know what that reminds you of, doesn't it? I know you guys do. All right, we are going to use some boiled linseed oil on this. I think. Actually, no, I'm not going to use that on this. I thought I had a different product. I think we're going to have to call it a night because I do not have the product that I thought I did to put on this board. To seal this without making it to seal it, but have it non-toxic. So I am all out of mineral oil, and that's normally what I would use on this. Let me see one thing here.